Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a world where whispered secrets swirl around shadowy corners, where desire was brewed in cauldrons of mystery and sometimes a little bit of madness. You probably won't survive this. Well, not literally, but let's be honest, some medieval love potions were so bizarre, ingesting them might have felt like a slow, very weird death. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where you're tuning in from while we unravel this. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself in a small medieval village, where the air smells of damp earth and smoke from the hearth fires. The streets are muddy and narrow, the kind of place where everyone knows your business, and rumors spread faster than the Black Death. Tonight, though, the whispers aren't about illness or taxes. They're about love, or rather, the mysterious brews people claim can make someone fall head over heels. Love potions. The forbidden fruits of medieval desire. Imagine the allure, a bottled secret that could twist the heart, bending fate to your will. Maybe you want a specific person to notice you, an unattainable lord, a shy servant, or perhaps even your own spouse who's grown cold. In a time when arranged marriages were the norm and social mobility as rare as a unicorn sighting, love potions offered a tempting shortcut. And boy, did people talk about them. These potions weren't just folk tales told by the fire. They lived in the margins between superstition, herbal lore, and outright fear. They were the gossip of the marketplace, the whispered warnings of village elders, and the stuff of scandalous rumors in the courts of kings and queens. But what were these brews, really? What secret ingredients did they hide? And who dared to make or use them? More importantly, did they actually work? Or were they simply clever cons disguised as magic? Historically, love potions were wrapped in layers of mystery and mistrust. Scholars still debate the real extent of their use. Some historians argue that the love potion was mostly symbolic, a reflection of society's deep desire to control something as elusive as love. Others suggest they were very real, administered in desperate moments, with effects that could be surprisingly potent or disastrously toxic. You might chuckle at the idea of medieval folks chasing after love with potions brewed from things like crushed mandrake root or unicorn horn. Spoiler, the latter was usually just a narwhal tusk sold at a premium. But behind those odd ingredients lay a serious attempt to influence emotions through the natural world. An early, if somewhat misguided, form of chemistry mixed with folklore. And then there's the dark side. Many potions contained substances that were downright dangerous. Some could induce hallucinations, others nausea, and a few could even be fatal. Love potions were not always about warm fuzzies. Sometimes they were tools of control, manipulation, or even revenge. There's a reason they were called forbidden fruits, not just because love itself was often tightly controlled, but because meddling with these brews could land you in a dungeon or worse. By the flickering light of a candle, you might imagine a cloaked figure mixing strange herbs, murmuring incantations, their hands trembling with anticipation or fear. Perhaps it's the local apothecary, or a secretive witch hiding in the woods. Their potions promised a taste of power in a world where so much was beyond personal control. And here's a cheeky reality check. If you thought love potions were all romantic swoons and secret admirers, think again. Some of these concoctions smelled so foul, even the bravest avoided them. Others had side effects that made your cheeks flush for entirely different reasons, sometimes not the kind you'd want to explain to the local priest. In medieval Europe, where superstition and science tangled like thorny vines, love potions occupied a curious place. They were part magic, part medicine, and part social rebellion. And whether whispered in taverns, sketched in herbal manuals, or condemned from pulpits, they held a peculiar fascination that has lasted centuries. Some scholars suggest that love potions served as a way for people, especially women, to exert a tiny sliver of control over their lives and desires in a society that often silenced them. It was a subtle form of rebellion, If you couldn't choose your spouse outright, perhaps you could nudge their heart a little closer to yours. Meanwhile, historians still argue whether the actual effectiveness of these potions came from the ingredients themselves or from the sheer power of belief. The placebo effect centuries before it had a name. After all, if you think something will make your crush fall for you, sometimes that confidence is enough to change how you act and how they respond. So, as you settle deeper into your pillow, think about those hidden worlds of medieval longing and longing's strange companions. Fear, hope, and a dash of dangerous curiosity. Those brews of crushed roots and whispered charms tell us more than just old recipes. They reveal the heartbeat of a time when love was as much about survival as it was about feeling. And on that note, let's drift a little closer to those shadowy corners where the secret recipes were born, where earth and myth tangled together in search of that perfect, forbidden fruit. You lean in closer now, eyes half-lidded, and smell the faint, earthy scent of dried herbs mingled with something sweeter, maybe a hint of crushed rose petals or honey. In the world of medieval love potions, ingredients mattered a lot. Not just any plant or fruit would do. It had to be rare, secretive, or sometimes downright bizarre. Because, hey, if you're going to brew a potion to bend someone's heart, you might as well throw in a little drama, right? Take mandrake root, for example. It looks like a tiny, gnarled human figure. Imagine pulling up a root that seems to mimic your own shape. Legend had it that when you uprooted mandrake, it would scream so loudly it could kill anyone who heard it. Yes, medieval herbalists apparently had to develop some nifty tricks to harvest it safely, like tying a dog to the plant to pull it out while the dog took the deadly scream. Talk about teamwork. Mandrake was considered a powerful aphrodisiac and an essential ingredient in many love potions, believed to bring fertility and passion. But it wasn't just for romance. Mandrake was also used as an anesthetic and in rituals, making it a plant shrouded in mystery and fear. You might wonder how much of its potency was actual chemistry and how much was the legend itself. Historians still debate whether people truly understood the dangerous effects or if the stories were just dramatic warnings. And then there was crushed viper venom or powdered snake parts. Yes, snakes. Sometimes, potion makers added these to enhance the magical power of their concoctions, thinking the serpent's deadly qualities could somehow translate into irresistible allure. Maybe not the best idea if your goal was a warm, fuzzy feeling instead of an unexpected trip to the apothecary. But hey, love can be dangerous, literally. Fruits also played their part in the medieval love potion pantheon. The love apple, which we now know as the tomato, was once believed to have enchanting powers. It was called the love apple because of its bright, red, tempting appearance. But it was also suspected of being poisonous for a long time. After all, who would trust a fruit that looks like a shiny red orb of temptation? Some scholars suggest that the fear and fascination around the tomato may have helped fuel myths about its magical properties in love potions. But not all fruits were real. Some were figments of medieval imagination. For example, the alraun, or the mythical mandrake fruit, was said to grow from the mandrake root's flower and was thought to hold incredible love-enhancing powers. No one ever quite agreed if it really existed or if it was just another piece of medieval botanical fantasy. This blend of fact and fiction is exactly what makes medieval love potions so delightfully perplexing. Flowers like roses and violets also found their way into these brews. Roses, with their rich symbolism of love and beauty, were ground into powders or infused into waters. Violets, believed to inspire love and fidelity, were a gentler touch. Honey was often added, both for sweetness and because it symbolized affection and unity. You might think potion recipes were handed down like family heirlooms, but actually, many were closely guarded secrets. The apothecaries, those medieval pharmacists, and sometimes cunning herbalists would protect their recipes fiercely, selling them only to trusted clients or using them to gain influence. Interestingly, some of the ingredients had legitimate medicinal uses. Take cinnamon, for instance. It was highly prized, expensive, and thought to improve circulation. A warming effect on the body might well have made someone feel more energized or passionate. Historians point out that these ingredients probably had more to do with creating a sensory experience than any real magical effect. And that's where the line between medicine, superstition, and magic really starts to blur. Monks in monasteries, who tended to be among the few literate and educated people at the time, often wrote herbal manuscripts detailing plants and their uses. Some of these manuscripts mention plants like mandrake, henbane, or belladonna, noting their effects on the human body, sometimes warning of dangers but also hinting at their powers to influence love and desire. The question remains, were these ingredients effective because of their chemical properties or because people believed in their power? Scholars still debate this, with some leaning toward a mix of both. The early chemistry of herbalism combined with the placebo effect fueled by deep cultural belief. A fringe theory suggests that certain herbs in love potions might have caused mild hallucinations or altered perceptions, leading people to believe they felt passion or affection when, in fact, their senses were just playing tricks. That belladonna, also called deadly nightshade, was known to cause dizziness and flushed skin, which might have been mistaken for signs of arousal or enchantment. But ingesting too much could lead to serious poisoning, so not exactly a reliable route to true love. Then there are those forbidden ingredients, plants or animal parts that were rare, difficult to obtain, or considered taboo. The scales of a fish thought to be a mermaid, powdered pearls, or even the ashes of burned bones sometimes appeared in recipes. Whether these were genuinely believed to enhance a potion's power or simply added as exotic curiosities is an ongoing historical puzzle. You might be surprised to learn that some fruits, like apples, also had symbolic weight. The apple's reputation as a forbidden fruit stretches back to biblical stories, and in medieval love potions, apples often symbolized temptation and desire. But the varieties used were different. Some were small crab apples, known for their bitter taste, far from the sweet apples of modern orchards. So as you picture these strange blends, gnarled roots, bright berries, powdered bones, being carefully measured by flickering candlelight, remember, every ingredient carried a story, a superstition, or a hope. Some were chosen for their smell, others for their color, and many for their mythic associations. You might chuckle imagining a medieval apothecary juggling crushed vipers and honey, promising true love but really just hoping the customer wouldn't come back complaining about stomach cramps. It's a world where the natural and supernatural danced awkwardly together, creating potions that were as much about belief and theater as they were about chemistry. And while you might think this sounds like a recipe for disaster, it's fascinating how these ingredients reflected the values and fears of the time. The forbidden fruits of medieval love potions weren't just about romance. They were about power, survival, and sometimes a desperate grasp at hope in a harsh world. You're now stepping deeper into a shadowy realm where love potions blur the line between magic and medicine, and where the stakes were sometimes as high as a witch trial. Because here's the thing, in medieval times, the difference between a healer and a witch was often just a matter of perspective, and sometimes the same person wore both hats, depending on who was asking. Imagine yourself in a crowded market square, watching as a woman quietly hands over a small vial of amber liquid to a desperate lover. To the hopeful, it's a remedy, a charm, a secret key to the heart. But to the suspicious, it's witchcraft, a dangerous meddling with forces beyond human control. The tension between these views sparked fear, accusations, and sometimes deadly consequences. Medieval society was deeply superstitious. The church preached that love was a gift from God, and anything attempting to manufacture it through potions or spells was suspect at best, heretical at worst. So, those who brewed or sold love potions often found themselves walking a dangerous tightrope. Was this innocent herbalism or devil's work? Historians still debate how widespread the fear really was. Some scholars argue that most people simply saw love potions as harmless folk remedies, while others point to court records filled with accusations of witchcraft where love potions were central evidence. Either way, the threat of persecution was very real, especially during periods of witch hunts. You might be surprised to learn that some love potions were openly sold in apothecary shops alongside more mundane remedies. This duality, between accepted medicine and taboo magic, was a defining feature of medieval life. Apothecaries were often the town's trusted healers, using plants like rosemary or lavender to soothe ailments. But their potions could easily slip into the realm of the mystical if they promised to stir the heart. Monks and clergy sometimes made love potions too, mixing their knowledge of herbs with prayers and rituals. Their potions were often more about blessing and protection than control, but it's fascinating to imagine holy men quietly brewing remedies for a lovelorn noblewoman in a monastery's quiet garden. Yet, for many, the difference boiled down to intent. If you were trying to help or heal, it might be tolerated. But if you were seen as trying to manipulate or curse, the consequences could be severe. Accusations of casting love potions could lead to fines, imprisonment, or worse. Medieval courts often treated love potions as evidence of malicious witchcraft. There's a notable debate among scholars about whether medieval love potions were truly believed to possess magical powers or if they functioned more as psychological tools, a form of early placebo effect wrapped in mystical symbolism. After all, if you believe that drinking a potion will make someone love you, that confidence might change your behavior in ways that actually improve your chances. But the potion itself? Probably just a mix of herbs, sometimes with side effects. Now, picture the rituals that accompanied these potions. Brewing a love potion wasn't just mixing ingredients. It often involved chants, secret words, or symbolic actions meant to awaken the magic inside. These rituals could be simple, whispering a lover's name while stirring the potion, or complex ceremonies conducted at specific times, like under a full moon. Some of these rituals had roots in pagan traditions, passed down through generations, and quietly practiced even as the church tried to stamp them out. The tension between old folk beliefs and the church's official stance is a recurring theme. The church condemned many practices as sinful or demonic, but people often clung to them because they offered hope in a world where love and happiness felt out of reach. You might smile at some of the more eccentric rituals, like burying the potion under a thorn bush or mixing it only while wearing a particular color of clothing. These little superstitions were part of the charm and mystery that made the potions feel powerful. But it wasn't always light-hearted. Sometimes these rituals were dark and dangerous. Some potions involved disturbing ingredients, like graveyard dirt or animal parts, that symbolized death and rebirth, reinforcing the idea that love was a powerful, transformative force but one to be approached with caution. Interestingly, some historians suggest that the magic of love potions often came more from social and psychological factors than from the brews themselves. The act of giving or receiving a potion was a ritualized expression of desire, sometimes more important than the potion's actual contents. It was a kind of medieval role-play, where the potion was a symbol of hope and longing. And then there's the fascinating question of how these potions fit into the gender politics of the time. Women were often blamed for casting love potions or practicing witchcraft, reflecting societal anxieties about female sexuality and power. Yet, it's clear that men also sought love potions or used them to manipulate romantic interests. The popular image of the mysterious witch concocting potions in a dark forest owes much to these fears and fantasies. But in reality, potion making was often a practical skill passed down through families, blending knowledge of plants with cultural beliefs. Love potions were part medicine, part superstition, part theater. They were tools people used to navigate a complex world where love could be both a blessing and a trap. The blurred line between magic and medicine made them simultaneously fascinating and feared. So, as you drift in this twilight world of shadow and hope, remember that love potions weren't just about stirring hearts. They were about stirring fears, beliefs, and the age-old human desire to control what feels uncontrollable. And somewhere between the apothecary's shop and the whispered woods, the mystery lingers. Did these potions hold real power, or was it all just a spell woven by hope and fear? You imagine a cloistered monastery, its stone walls quiet except for the soft scratching of quills and the occasional creak of wooden shelves lined with dusty jars and scrolls. Monks in simple robes move carefully among these treasures, tending to herbs and concocting remedies. It might seem surprising, but these men, keepers of knowledge and faith, were sometimes the unexpected alchemists behind medieval love potions. In an era where access to rare herbs and knowledge was limited, monks and apothecaries held a unique place. Monasteries often had extensive gardens growing medicinal plants, and monks copied and preserved ancient herbal texts. Their knowledge wasn't just spiritual, it was scientific for its time, blending observation, experimentation, and tradition. The idea that these religious men would dabble in love potions might raise eyebrows today, but medieval monks saw no contradiction. Healing the body and soul was intertwined, and if a potion could soothe a troubled heart or help with fertility, why not? Monastic gardens were carefully cultivated sanctuaries where mandrake, lavender, rosemary, and countless other herbs flourished. These plants were believed to have powers to heal or influence emotions. The monks often infused these herbs into tinctures, salves, and waters, sometimes with secret formulas handed down through generations. Apothecaries, too, were central figures in medieval communities. They were the pharmacists and herbalists, skilled in mixing compounds and selling remedies. Unlike the monks who worked in quiet monasteries, apothecaries were public, bustling figures, with shops often tucked into busy streets. Their shelves were lined with curious bottles and ingredients: crushed bones, powdered pearls, dried roots, and, yes, sometimes love potions. You might imagine a clever apothecary juggling the expectations of a skeptical town while secretly crafting potions that whispered promises of passion or reconciliation. Some were likely genuine herbalists, others perhaps more charlatans exploiting hopes and fears. Monks and apothecaries both had to balance trust and suspicion. The church sanctioned certain medicines but condemned others as witchcraft or heresy. A monk caught using forbidden ingredients risked censure. An apothecary accused of fraud or sorcery risked harsher punishment. Yet, their knowledge made them indispensable. Some apothecaries became secret confidants for lovelorn clients, carefully selecting ingredients to avoid the deadly side effects of more toxic plants like belladonna or henbane. They might add rosewater for scent or honey for sweetness, disguising the bitter tastes of some herbs. The best potions didn't just promise love, they seduced the senses. Interestingly, historical records reveal that some monks even compiled recipe books blending medical and magical knowledge. These herbals were part science, part mysticism, and often coded to protect secrets. Deciphering them today, scholars find entries on plants like mandrake alongside prayers and astrological advice, showing how intertwined the spiritual and physical were. It wasn't only about the herbs. Monks sometimes added religious elements, blessings, holy water, or inscriptions invoking saints. This fusion gave potions a dual power, earthly and divine. You can almost hear the quiet incantations mingling with the rustle of leaves in the garden. On the other side, apothecaries might operate with more flair and discretion, offering potions as love remedies, while carefully avoiding words like magic or witchcraft. Their customers were often desperate people, young lovers separated by class, spouses seeking to rekindle affection, or even nobles looking to secure alliances. There's a curious open debate among historians about how much genuine belief the makers of these potions had in their powers. Did monks and apothecaries see themselves as healers using the best tools of their time? Or were some simply savvy entrepreneurs, blending hope with a dash of theatricality to keep their business thriving? The tools of the trade were humble but fascinating: mortar and pestle, glass vials, dried herbs bundled in cloth, and small knives for precision. The process of making a potion was as much ritual as science: measuring, chanting, timing with the phases of the moon, and carefully sealing the bottle. You might chuckle imagining a monk trying to explain to his abbot why he just spent 3 hours talking to a nervous peasant about the power of roses and mandrake. Or the apothecary trying to hide his smirk as a customer nervously asks if the potion will really make Lady Eleanor notice me. Behind the scenes, these creators of potions shaped how medieval society understood love, desire, and control. Their work shows a world grappling with emotions too powerful to ignore, trying to blend faith, science, and a little magic into a tangible remedy. And here's a light joke for you. Why did the apothecary bring a ladder to the love potion shop? Because the demand was through the roof. Remember the crocodile dung sunscreen from an earlier story? Well, just like that bizarre remedy, love potions were a strange mix of natural ingredients, superstition, and hope, sometimes effective, often questionable, but always fascinating. So next time you think about medieval love potions, picture not just the witches in dark forests, but the quiet monks in their gardens and the bustling apothecaries in market lanes, each crafting their own kind of magic with leaves, roots, and a pinch of faith. You're now drifting into the orchard of myth and reality, where actual fruits and imagined wonders mingle in the alchemical dance of medieval love potions. Picture a basket brimming with glossy apples, strange berries, and mysterious forbidden fruits, each carrying its own tale of desire, danger, and enchantment. Let's start with the love apple. Today, we know it simply as the tomato, but back then, it was a fruit wrapped in suspicion and wonder. Arriving in Europe from the New World in the 16th century, tomatoes looked exotic and a bit sinister with their shiny red skin. Some feared they were poisonous, while others whispered that the love apple could ignite passion or cause madness. This fruit perfectly embodies how the boundaries between botanical reality and magical belief blurred. Medieval cooks and herbalists incorporated real fruits into potions with symbolic weight. Apples, for instance, were more than just food. They were tokens of temptation and seduction, echoing their biblical reputation as the forbidden fruit. But not the sweet apples we bite today. Many were tart, crab apples, whose bitterness matched the dangers of meddling with love. Pomegranates also played a starring role. Their abundant red seeds symbolized fertility and passion, making them a favored addition to love brews. You might imagine a potion maker carefully extracting juice from the ruby seeds under flickering candlelight, believing the fruit's richness could awaken desire. Some scholars argue that pomegranate's association with the Greek myth of Persephone and the underworld added layers of meaning about life, death, and rebirth, apt metaphors for the risks and rewards of love. Berries, too, found their place. Strawberries, blackberries, and elderberries were prized not just for flavor but for their supposed powers to influence emotions. Elderberries, in particular, were often linked to magic and healing. They grew wild, sometimes near sacred groves, and were considered protective against evil spirits. A nice bonus if your potion also needed a little spiritual insurance. But the forbidden fruits weren't limited to the tangible. Medieval herbals mention love apples that may never have existed, mystical fruits born of imagination or symbolic storytelling. The alraun fruit, tied to the mandrake plant, was believed to possess extraordinary love-inducing qualities but remains a botanical mystery. These imagined fruits reflect medieval society's yearning for control over the chaotic and mysterious nature of love. If a potion could contain the essence of desire, then what better symbol than a fruit, sweet, tempting, and just out of reach? Some potion recipes called for fruits that were seasonally rare or hard to find, making the potions themselves exclusive and expensive. Exotic spices from faraway lands, like cinnamon, nutmeg, or saffron, were sometimes mixed in, elevating the potion's status. These ingredients were a mark of wealth and power, suggesting that love, too, could be bought or influenced by status. Historians debate the authenticity of some fruits in these potions. Were they actually used, or were they poetic metaphors? Did the love apple really make someone swoon, or was it a clever name to entice customers? The line between marketing, myth, and medicine was thin. You might smile at the idea that some potion makers believed fruits could absorb moonlight or the essence of certain days, enhancing their powers. For instance, Gathering fruit under a full moon was thought to infuse the potion with extra magic, a belief blending astrology and natural philosophy. But fruits weren't just about symbolism or taste. They often carried chemical compounds that could subtly influence the body. For example, quinine from cinchona bark, though more famous later, and certain berries contained stimulants or mild toxins. While medieval people didn't understand chemistry the way we do today, their observations sometimes hinted at real effects. And let's not forget the practical side. Fruits like apples and berries helped mask the bitter taste of more dangerous ingredients, making potions more palatable. Honey was a common sweetener, and sometimes spices like ginger or cloves added warmth, both literally and figuratively. The imagined forbidden fruits also represented societal taboos, desires or loves that were out of reach due to class, religion, or morality. To ingest such a potion was to risk stepping beyond accepted boundaries. Maybe that's why these fruits were sometimes portrayed as otherworldly or dangerous, embodying the tension between longing and restraint. You might wonder how medieval people reacted to these fruits when they were consumed. Were the effects dramatic, subtle, or purely psychological? Scholars remain divided. Some believe the rituals and symbolism surrounding the fruits were just as important as the ingredients themselves, shaping expectations and experiences. A fringe theory proposes that the symbolic use of fruits in potions also linked to fertility rites and seasonal cycles, echoing ancient pagan traditions quietly surviving beneath the surface of Christian Europe. The cyclical nature of fruiting and harvest became metaphors for human love's rhythms and mysteries. So as you picture the basket of fruits, some real, some imagined, all wrapped in layers of meaning, remember that these forbidden fruits are more than ingredients. They are stories, hopes, fears, and the sweet, dangerous temptation that has fascinated humans for centuries. And just for a chuckle, why did the apple stop in the middle of the road? Because it ran out of juice. From bright red apples to mystical mandrake fruits, the orchard of medieval love potions invites you to taste the blend of reality and myth that made these brews irresistible, mysterious, and occasionally deadly. You're now stepping into the dim glow of twilight, where the air is thick with the scent of burning herbs and whispered chants. The making of a love potion wasn't just a simple mixing of ingredients. It was a ritual, a ceremony, a dance with the unseen forces believed to awaken the magic locked within the brew. These bizarre rituals varied wildly, from whispered incantations to elaborate ceremonies under the stars, and they reveal a world where the natural and supernatural were deeply intertwined. Imagine a potion maker kneeling in a moonlit clearing, the soft rustle of leaves blending with the rhythmic chant of names and words that seem both ancient and secret. The ritual might begin with the careful gathering of ingredients at precise moments, perhaps just before dawn or on the night of a full moon, because timing was everything. The phases of the moon, the position of the stars, and even the day of the week were believed to affect a potion's potency. Some rituals involved turning the brewing pot a specific number of times while reciting spells. Others required the brewer to fast or abstain from certain foods for days, purifying body and spirit. It wasn't just the ingredients that mattered, it was the intention, the focus, the sacred act of creation. One curious ceremony involved writing the name of the desired lover on a piece of parchment, which was then folded into the potion's container or burned as part of the ritual. This act was thought to bind the person's spirit to the potion, making the spell more effective. You can almost hear the nervous breath of the potion maker, hoping that this small, secret act would tip the scales of fate. Some rituals borrowed from older pagan traditions, blending nature worship and symbolism. For example, circling the brewing spot 3 times to honor the triple goddess, or scattering specific herbs like vervain or rue to ward off evil spirits. These actions link the potion not just to the earthly ingredients, but to a wider cosmic balance. It's fascinating to consider that these rituals served as a form of psychological reinforcement. If the potion maker and the drinker both believed in the ritual's power, the potion was more likely to work, whether through altered perception or social influence. Scholars today see this as an early form of the placebo effect, but one wrapped in mystery and ceremony. Of course, not all rituals were gentle or hopeful. Some called for darker actions, using graveyard dirt, animal blood, or nightshade plants to invoke powerful, sometimes dangerous forces. These potions were riskier, often associated with curses or revenge, and could bring as much harm as love. You might smile at the image of a nervous apothecary carefully whispering secret words while stirring a cauldron, all the while hoping the whole village wouldn't catch wind and start whispering accusations of witchcraft. Historians debate how standardized these rituals were. Some suggest that many were improvised, passed down orally with variations depending on region, culture, and individual belief. Others argue for the existence of more formalized ceremonies preserved in grimoires, books of magic, that outlined exact steps and words. One well-known ritual involved drawing down the moon, a practice where the brewer attempted to capture the moon's power in the potion, often by brewing the ingredients under moonlight and invoking lunar deities. This idea connects to ancient beliefs about the moon's influence on human emotion and fertility. There's also an open scholarly discussion about how much these rituals were influenced by astrology. Medieval astrology was a respected science, and potion makers often consulted star charts to pick the right moment for brewing or administering potions. The position of Venus, the planet of love, was especially significant. You might chuckle imagining a potion maker frustratedly checking the stars and grumbling, "If Venus doesn't cooperate, my customers won't either." And here's a quirky fact. Some rituals called for the potion to be stirred with a silver spoon, as silver was believed to repel evil and enhance purity. The choice of tools mattered as much as the ingredients, adding layers of meaning to the process. The sensory experience of these rituals was profound. The flickering candlelight casting shadows, the scent of crushed herbs filling the air, the rhythmic cadence of whispered spells creating a trance-like atmosphere. This environment was designed to heighten belief and focus intent, key components for any medieval love potion's success. You might wonder what it felt like to be the person receiving such a potion. The ceremony surrounding its creation could add weight to its power, making the drinker more receptive to the potion's effects, whether real or imagined. And while these rituals might seem strange or theatrical to us now, they were deeply meaningful to those living in a world where science and magic were often one and the same. So as you close your eyes and imagine that moonlit clearing, remember that love potions were never just about the ingredients. They were about ceremony, belief, and the human desire to reach beyond the ordinary. And here's a little joke to lighten the mood. Why did the witch brew her love potion at midnight? Because she wanted it to be a real witching hour success. That strange, beautiful mix of ritual and romance in medieval love potions reminds us that sometimes the magic is in the story, not just the brew. You find yourself in the dimly lit chambers of medieval castles and the humble hearths of peasant cottages, where the stories of love potions flicker like shadows on the wall. These tales, some whispered and some recorded, reveal a world where potions could stir hearts or stir trouble, blurring the line between myth and reality in the most unexpected ways. One of the most famous stories involves Eleanor of Aquitaine, the powerful and enigmatic queen whose love life was as legendary as her political influence. Some accounts suggest that Eleanor might have used love potions herself, or at least been the recipient of such brews, to maintain the affections of her often distant husband, King Henry II. Whether this is truth or court gossip, the story speaks to how even royalty engaged with the mysterious allure of these potions. Imagine the tension in a royal court, where whispers about love potions could mean power or peril. A misplaced vial or a jealous rival's brew could change alliances or spark scandal. The stakes were high, and so were the rumors. On the other end of the social spectrum, peasants had their own tales. A humble woman accused of brewing love potions might be both feared and sought after, a healer to some, a witch to others. Stories tell of villagers sneaking out at night to acquire secret recipes or ingredients, hoping to win the heart of a beloved who otherwise wouldn't notice them. One popular tale recounts a young woman who concocted a potion to win over a local blacksmith, only to have the potion cause him to become strangely obsessed, not with love, but with peculiar behaviors that earned him the nickname the Mad Smith. This story highlights the thin line between enchantment and misfortune. Historians debate whether these stories were exaggerated to reinforce social norms or genuinely reflected common practices. Some scholars argue that love potions were a widespread folk remedy, while others believe many tales were cautionary, warning against meddling with love's natural course. You might smile at the recurring theme of unintended consequences, the potion that made someone fall in love with the wrong person or caused bizarre side effects. Medieval literature is filled with such ironic twists, serving both as entertainment and moral lesson. For instance, Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales includes references to love potions and magical charms, often with a humorous or skeptical tone. This suggests that by the late Middle Ages, people were aware of the dubious nature of these brews but still entertained the idea. There's also the curious story of a nobleman who allegedly used a love potion to secure a marriage alliance but was later discovered when the potion caused an embarrassing skin rash. This tale is a reminder that these potions were not only mysterious but potentially dangerous. The boundaries between truth and legend blur even further with stories involving alchemists and magicians who promised elixirs of eternal love or youth. While some were undoubtedly charlatans, others were serious scholars experimenting with early chemistry. Their exploits contributed to the aura of mystery surrounding love potions. A fringe theory suggests that some love potion stories were coded accounts of real social and political maneuvering, disguised as magical tales to protect the identities of those involved. Whether true or not, it's a fascinating lens on how folklore intersects with history. You might chuckle at the fact that despite centuries, the idea of a potion that can capture the heart remains irresistible. From medieval courts to modern rom-coms, the fantasy persists. So as you listen to these stories, some sweet, some strange, and some downright tragic, remember that medieval love potions were more than just brews. They were symbols of hope, desperation, and the timeless human quest for connection. And here's a light-hearted quip. Why did the love potion go to school? To improve its chemistry. The stories of love potions remind us that beneath the superstition and myth, people have always sought to unlock the mysteries of the heart, sometimes with a little help from a mysterious vial. You settle deeper into the shadows of this medieval tale, where love potions reveal their darker side, the dangers hidden within the delicate bottles that promised passion but sometimes delivered poison. Because, while the idea of a magical brew that could make someone swoon sounds enchanting, the reality was often far more perilous. Many of the ingredients beloved by potion makers, mandrake, belladonna, henbane, contained powerful alkaloids that could cause hallucinations, delirium, or even death if used improperly. Imagine swallowing a love potion only to find yourself dizzy, with your heart pounding wildly, your mouth dry as desert sand, and your thoughts swimming in a fog. There are chilling records of people accidentally poisoned by potions meant to inspire love. Some suffered seizures or madness, while others simply fell into a deep, unnatural sleep. The line between enchantment and curse was thin, and sometimes intentionally blurred. Historians still debate how often these tragic outcomes occurred. Some believe that many love potions were in fact slow poisons, administered to weaken or control a rival under the guise of affection. Others argue that most were harmless mixtures with occasional side effects misunderstood at the time. One particularly grim tale tells of a noblewoman accused of using a love potion laced with poison to dispose of a rival. Though she denied the charges, the court's verdict was harsh, an execution meant to serve as a warning against such dangerous meddling. But not all effects were deadly. Some potions caused embarrassing or socially awkward symptoms. Flushed cheeks and dilated pupils might be mistaken for signs of passion, but were often simply the result of toxic compounds irritating the body. A love potion might leave someone with a racing pulse and trembling hands, which could be perceived as lovesickness but was more likely poisoning. In some cases, the very act of administering a potion was used as a form of control or coercion. A husband might slip a potion to keep his wife compliant, or a courtier might use one to gain favor with a noble. These potions were tools of power as much as romance. You might find it ironic that the forbidden fruits sometimes brought about the opposite of love: fear, illness, or even death. It's a reminder that in medieval times, medicine and magic were intertwined, but so was danger. Scholars debate the ethics and intentions behind these potions. Were potion makers innocent herbalists misled by superstition, or calculating manipulators? The truth is likely a mix of both. Interestingly, some historical recipes for love potions included detailed warnings about dosage and side effects, showing an awareness of their potency and risks. Yet, knowledge didn't always prevent accidents. You might smile wryly at the idea that in medieval times, love really could be toxic. And, as one historian joked, some potions promised to make hearts flutter, but only because they stopped the lungs from working properly. The dangers extended beyond the physical. Being caught with or accused of using a love potion could ruin reputations, provoke accusations of witchcraft, or lead to legal punishment. The social risks were high, especially for women. The Church condemned love potions as sinful interference with God's will, linking them to demonic forces. This religious condemnation added to the fear surrounding their use and made potions a topic of scandal and secrecy. Despite the risks, the allure of love potions endured, perhaps because the promise of controlling love was too tempting to resist, even at great personal cost. So as you imagine those small vials, some shimmering with promise and others lurking with poison, remember the thin line walked by those who dared to seek love through forbidden brews. And to lighten the mood, why don't love potions ever work on computers? Because they don't respond to bite-sized affection. Medieval love potions remind us that the quest for love has always been a complicated, sometimes dangerous journey, where hope and risk dance closely together. You find yourself stepping into the intricate dance of medieval society, where love potions weren't just whimsical charms, they were deeply entangled with gender roles, power struggles, and social dynamics. In this world, who made and used love potions wasn't just a matter of curiosity. It was a reflection of who held influence, who sought control, and who dared to defy the norms. Picture a quiet village, where a woman discreetly prepares a potion behind closed doors, hoping to capture the affection of a man bound by social duty or family expectations. Women were often the secret alchemists of love, wielding their knowledge of herbs and rituals in a world that otherwise limited their power. Love potions offered a subtle means of agency, an attempt to shape their own destinies in a rigid, patriarchal society. But this agency was risky. Women who brewed or used love potions risked accusations of witchcraft or immoral behavior. The fear of female power, and especially female sexuality, was deeply ingrained in medieval culture. A woman who could manipulate love was seen as a threat to social order. Men, too, were involved, though often less publicly. Noblemen might seek potions to secure marriages or maintain control over wives. Courtiers and merchants could use potions to gain favor or influence. However, male use of love potions was less scrutinized, reflecting gendered double standards. This imbalance is a key topic in modern scholarship. Historians debate whether love potions were predominantly a tool of female empowerment or if they reinforced existing hierarchies by enabling manipulation within a patriarchal framework. Consider the social context. Marriages were often arranged for political or economic reasons, leaving little room for personal choice or romantic love. Love potions, then, became a way to inject passion, or at least affection, into predetermined unions. They were a form of social negotiation, sometimes with profound personal consequences. You might imagine the tension in noble courts, where a queen's influence could be amplified or undermined through the subtle use of potions. At the same time, common folk relied on these brews to navigate their own complicated relationships, seeking a taste of control in lives often dictated by circumstance. Religious authorities were deeply concerned about love potions, seeing them as tools of temptation and sin. Women in particular were warned against using such brews, with sermons condemning the witch's craft and its dangers. This moral panic fed into broader fears of female sexuality and social disorder. Yet, despite these warnings, the use of love potions persisted, quietly woven into daily life. The secrecy surrounding them speaks to their power and the risks involved. An interesting debate among scholars revolves around how love potions related to medieval concepts of consent and agency. Were potions seen as coercive tools, violating free will, or were they accepted as part of the complex rituals of courtship and desire? Some argue that love potions blurred the lines between consent and manipulation, raising ethical questions still relevant today. Others see them as symbolic expressions of longing and hope rather than literal means of control. You might chuckle thinking about how some medieval love potions promised to make a reluctant lover mad with desire, which sounds a lot like the plot of a romantic comedy with a dark twist. And here's a cheeky quip for you. Why did the medieval woman bring a ladder to the potion shop? Because she wanted to climb the social ladder of love. The gendered use of love potions reveals much about medieval society, the hopes, fears, and power struggles that shaped personal relationships. They were more than mere recipes. They were reflections of a world grappling with love's complexities. So as you imagine these potions circulating quietly in homes and courts, think about the delicate balance of power they represented, a whisper of control in a world often ruled by fate. You're slipping now into the flickering light of medieval manuscripts and the painted walls of great halls, where love potions come alive not just in practice, but in the stories and images created by writers and artists. These portrayals offer a window into how medieval people viewed these mysterious brews, sometimes with suspicion, sometimes with humor, and always with a knowing wink. Imagine a richly illustrated manuscript, the margins adorned with tiny sketches of strange plants, curious creatures, and even mischievous imps stirring bubbling pots. In medieval literature, love potions often appear as plot devices, driving stories of desire, deception, and sometimes disaster. They were a favorite tool for authors to explore the unpredictable nature of love and the human heart. One famous example is in the works of Geoffrey Chaucer, where love potions and charms pop up with a wink and a nod. They're often portrayed as unreliable, sometimes causing unexpected chaos rather than smooth romance. This tongue-in-cheek treatment suggests that by the late Middle Ages, people were aware of the dubious efficacy of these potions but delighted in their entertaining possibilities. Medieval art, too, shows love potions in a variety of lights. Illuminated manuscripts might depict a lady offering a potion to her beloved, surrounded by symbols of love like roses and doves. Yet, the same art sometimes includes subtle warnings, a sneaky devil lurking in the background or a spilled vial signaling danger. These dual images reflect the ambivalent society held toward love potions, a mix of fascination and fear. You might smile imagining the humor embedded in some of these works, where love potions cause mayhem, unrequited affections, or downright absurd outcomes. They served as cautionary tales as much as entertainment, reminding audiences of the risks in trying to control love. Some scholars argue that these literary and artistic portrayals shaped public perceptions, influencing how people understood and talked about love potions. Were they magical cures, comical fads, or dangerous tools? The stories and images left behind suggest all of the above. Interestingly, certain motifs recur across different regions and periods. The heart-shaped bottle, for instance, became a popular symbol of love potions, appearing in artwork and later influencing modern romantic iconography. There's also an open debate among historians about whether these portrayals were realistic or satirical exaggerations. Did people genuinely believe in love potions, or did they view them with a skeptical, amused eye? Probably a bit of both. You might chuckle at the idea that medieval artists sometimes hid little jokes or sly comments about love potions in their work, like a secret shared with those in the know. In some cases, love potions appear in religious art as warnings against temptation, linking them to sin and moral weakness. These images reflect the Church's stance and the broader cultural anxieties about manipulating love through unnatural means. You can almost hear the quiet laughter of a medieval reader flipping through a manuscript, recognizing the absurdity and the allure of these brews, caught between desire and dread. And here's a light-hearted joke for you. Why don't medieval artists use love potions? Because their hearts are already drawn in. These portrayals remind us that love potions were as much cultural symbols as physical concoctions. They embodied the hopes, fears, and humor of a society trying to make sense of the unpredictable nature of love. So as you imagine the pages of illuminated manuscripts or the painted panels of old halls, remember that the stories and images of love potions offer a glimpse into the medieval mind, where magic, art, and human longing intertwined in beautiful and sometimes mischievous ways. You drift now into the somber shadows of medieval cathedrals and the stern voices echoing from pulpits, where the Church waged a quiet but relentless war on love potions. To religious authorities, these brews weren't mere curiosities or folk remedies. They were dangerous symbols of sin, heresy, and the dark forces of the devil himself. Imagine a monk preaching to a crowded congregation, warning that love potions tampered with God's divine plan. The sermon might have painted them as spells conjured by witches or tools of the devil, designed to deceive and corrupt innocent souls. This wasn't just religious doctrine, it was a social control mechanism, a way to enforce moral order and discourage forbidden desires. The Church's condemnation was thorough. Canon law often prohibited the use of love potions, and those caught brewing or administering them risked harsh penalties. Accusations of using love potions could escalate to charges of witchcraft, heresy, or immorality, sometimes resulting in trials, imprisonment, or even execution. You might find it chilling to realize how the Church's fear of love potions tied into broader anxieties about female power and sexuality. Women, especially healers, midwives, or herbalists, were often targeted as witches, accused of using potions to manipulate men or disrupt social harmony. Historians debate how widespread and effective the Church's campaigns really were. Some argue that many communities continue to use love potions secretly despite official bans, while others suggest that public fear kept their use limited and underground. The Church's stance also reflected theological views about love and marriage. Love was to be pure, chaste, and divinely guided, not manufactured by human artifice. Love potions, by promising to engineer affection, threatened this ideal. Interestingly, some clergy themselves might have dabbled in herbal knowledge, walking a fine line between accepted medicine and forbidden magic. This contradiction highlights the complexity of medieval attitudes toward love potions. In sermons and theological writings, love potions were often linked to lust, a deadly sin, and seen as manifestations of human weakness and temptation. The moral panic around them fed into the infamous witch hunts of later centuries. You might chuckle darkly at the irony that the very fear of love potions may have amplified their mystique, making them more alluring as forbidden objects. The Church also used art and literature to warn against the dangers of love potions, portraying witches and sorceresses as evil figures wielding these brews to harm innocent people. There's a curious debate among scholars about the extent to which the Church's opposition to love potions shaped their decline or merely pushed them into secret practice. Did official condemnation kill the belief, or did it transform it? You might smile at how, despite all the sermons and warnings, love potions persisted in folklore and practice, a testament to human desire's stubbornness. And here's a cheeky quip. Why don't priests make love potions? Because they prefer holy water for miracles. The Church's war on love potions reveals a medieval world grappling with the power of desire and the need for control, where faith and fear intertwined in a complex dance. So as you imagine those solemn sermons and stern faces, remember that love potions were caught in a crossfire of belief, morality, and the timeless quest to understand the heart. You're now stepping into the smoky, candlelit laboratories of medieval alchemists and early chemists, where love potions mingled with the dawn of science, a curious blend of superstition, experimentation, and hope. The medieval mind was eager to unlock nature's secrets, and love potions were part of this quest, a bridge between mysticism and the budding art of chemistry. Picture an alchemist hunched over a bubbling alembic, surrounded by mysterious powders, herbs, and vials of strange liquids. These early scientists sought not just to cure ailments but to transform base materials into something magical, even, sometimes, into a brew that could stir the passions of the heart. Alchemy, with its symbols and secrets, was as much spiritual as it was practical. It aimed to purify and perfect, and love potions were seen as potions of transformation, turning cold hearts warm, indifference into desire. The language was arcane, mixing philosophical ideas with chemical practices. You might find it fascinating that some alchemists wrote detailed treatises on the preparation of love potions, blending astrological charts, herbal knowledge, and careful measurements. This was far from the haphazard mixing of folk recipes. It was an early attempt at scientific method, even if it looks mystical to us now. Early pharmacology grew out of this tradition. Apothecaries experimented with plant extracts, learning which combinations could influence mood or physical responses. Love potions, in this context, were part of a continuum from medicine to magic. Historians debate how effective these early chemical approaches were. Did alchemists discover real properties in plants that affected the body and emotions? Some argue yes, the physiological effects of compounds like caffeine, nicotine, or mild stimulants were recognized in some form. Others suggest the mystical framework often overshadowed practical results. A fringe theory suggests that alchemists' interest in love potions was partly symbolic, representing the ultimate transformation of the self and the soul through love, not just physical attraction. You might chuckle imagining an alchemist carefully weighing mandrake root while mumbling about the philosopher's stone and celestial alignments, hoping to brew a potion that could rival Cupid himself. The tools of the trade were evolving, glassware improved, distillation became more precise, and systematic observation gained importance. Yet, the line between science and superstition remained fuzzy. Astrology played a significant role. The timing of potion making often depended on planetary positions. Venus, as the goddess and planet of love, was particularly influential. Alchemists believed that preparing potions under her favorable alignment enhanced effectiveness. You might smile at how medieval alchemy combined chemistry, spirituality, and a dash of astrology to chase the elusive power of love. Some early chemists also grappled with ethical questions. Was it right to try to manipulate love, or should it be left to fate and divine will? These debates echo in modern discussions about the ethics of pharmaceuticals affecting mood and desire. Interestingly, some recipes included ingredients that we now know contain psychoactive compounds, like opium poppies or certain mushrooms, suggesting that some potions had real physiological effects, albeit unpredictable ones. This intersection of emerging science and ancient belief makes medieval love potions a fascinating study of human curiosity and the quest for control over nature and emotion. So, as you imagine those smoky laboratories and mystic charts, remember that love potions were more than superstition. They were part of the early, imperfect journey toward understanding the body, mind, and heart. And here's a light joke to ease the mood. Why did the alchemist break up with his love potion? Because it wasn't reacting the way he hoped. Medieval chemistry's dance with love potions reminds us that science and magic often begin as partners, exploring the mysteries that make us human. You're now crossing borders and oceans, stepping beyond Europe to glimpse how the idea of love potions took unique and fascinating forms in distant lands, where different cultures blended their own herbs, rituals, and beliefs to enchant hearts and bind destinies. Though medieval Europe had its brew, the Middle East and Asia crafted their own versions, shaped by rich traditions and diverse philosophies. Picture a bustling bazaar in medieval Baghdad, where fragrant spices and rare herbs fill the air, and an apothecary carefully measures out ingredients while reciting ancient incantations. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars like Avicenna and others studied medicine and pharmacology with remarkable rigor. Their works included discussions on aphrodisiacs and love potions, blending empirical knowledge with poetic lore. Middle Eastern love potions often incorporated exotic ingredients like musk, ambergris, and rose water, prized not just for fragrance but for their supposed ability to stir desire. The use of perfumes and scented oils was widespread, enhancing the sensory experience of love, much like the European potions but with their own distinctive flair. You might find it intriguing that many Arabic medical texts carefully differentiated between harmless stimulants and dangerous poisons, emphasizing balance and moderation, an early understanding of dosage and effect that sometimes exceeded European practices of the time. In China, traditional medicine approached love and desire through a complex system of energies, yin and yang, and herbs believed to harmonize the body. Ingredients like ginseng, known for its invigorating properties, and lotus seeds, symbolizing purity and fertility, were common in love-enhancing recipes. The rituals surrounding these potions often involved meditation, breathing exercises, and adherence to cosmic cycles, weaving body, mind, and spirit into the pursuit of love's power. Japan, too, had its traditions involving love charms and potions, often tied to Shinto beliefs and the reverence of nature spirits. Small talismans, powders, and herbal mixtures were used to attract affection or ensure fidelity. There's an open scholarly debate about how much these diverse traditions influenced each other, especially along trade routes like the Silk Road. Some argue for rich exchanges of ideas and ingredients, while others see them as largely independent developments shaped by local culture. You might chuckle imagining a medieval European apothecary trying to replicate a Middle Eastern love potion without knowing the secret language of spices and symbols. Interestingly, some ingredients considered exotic in Europe, like frankincense, myrrh, or sandalwood, had long been staples in Middle Eastern and Asian love concoctions, symbolizing purity, sensuality, or divine favor. These cross-cultural echoes show that the human desire to influence love transcends geography and time. Though methods and meanings differed, the quest was universal. You might smile at how some of these potions were more about creating ambience and mood than any magical effect, much like today's scented candles or romantic dinners, proving that love's rituals are timeless. And here's a light-hearted joke. Why did the spice merchant always carry love potions? Because he knew how to season a relationship. Exploring love potions beyond Europe reveals a tapestry of beliefs and practices, each weaving the physical and spiritual in unique patterns, yet all driven by the same heart's longing. So as you imagine fragrant bazaars, tranquil gardens, and sacred temples, remember that the search for love's magic is a journey shared across the world, a story as diverse as the spices in an ancient apothecary's shelf. You're now drifting gently into the present, where the echoes of medieval love potions still resonate in the modern world, woven into our contemporary culture in surprising and sometimes amusing ways. The potions might have changed form, from brews of roots and ashes to bottles of perfume or herbal supplements, but the desire to stir affection and passion remains as vibrant as ever. Picture the aisles of a modern pharmacy or health store, where shelves are lined with products claiming to boost love, desire, or attraction. From scented candles and essential oils to herbal teas and aphrodisiac supplements, the market is flooded with modern descendants of medieval love potions. The ingredients might be safer and the packaging more polished, but the allure is unmistakably the same. Many of today's aphrodisiacs trace their roots directly back to medieval recipes. Ginseng, for example, is a staple in both traditional and modern love potions, prized for its supposed energy-boosting effects. Likewise, damiana and maca root have long histories as herbal enhancers of desire. You might smile at how some modern products lean heavily on marketing, borrowing medieval mystique to suggest ancient wisdom behind their formulas, whether or not science backs their claims. The scientific community remains skeptical of many modern love potions, often dismissing them as placebo or marketing gimmicks. Yet, as with their medieval ancestors, belief plays a powerful role. If someone expects a potion to work, that confidence can influence their mood, behavior, and even their relationships. You're now crossing borders and oceans, stepping beyond Europe to glimpse how the idea of love potions took unique and fascinating forms in distant lands, where different cultures blended their own herbs, rituals, and beliefs to enchant hearts and bind destinies. Though medieval Europe had its brew, the Middle East and Asia crafted their own versions, shaped by rich traditions and diverse philosophies. Picture a bustling bazaar in medieval Baghdad, where fragrant spices and rare herbs fill the air, and an apothecary carefully measures out ingredients while reciting ancient incantations. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars like Avicenna and others studied medicine and pharmacology with remarkable rigor. Their works included discussions on aphrodisiacs and love potions, blending empirical knowledge with poetic lore. Middle Eastern love potions often incorporated exotic ingredients like musk, ambergris, and rose water, prized not just for fragrance but for their supposed ability to stir desire. The use of perfumes and scented oils was widespread, enhancing the sensory experience of love, much like the European potions, but with their own distinctive flair. You might find it intriguing that many Arabic medical texts carefully differentiated between harmless stimulants and dangerous poisons, emphasizing balance and moderation, an early understanding of dosage and effect that sometimes exceeded European practices of the time. In China, traditional medicine approached love and desire through a complex system of energies, yin and yang, and herbs believed to harmonize the body. Ingredients like ginseng, known for its invigorating properties, and lotus seeds, symbolizing purity and fertility, were common in love-enhancing recipes. The rituals surrounding these potions often involved meditation, breathing exercises, and adherence to cosmic cycles, weaving body, mind, and spirit into the pursuit of love's power. Japan, too, had its traditions involving love charms and potions, often tied to Shinto beliefs and the reverence of nature spirits. Small talismans, powders, and herbal mixtures were used to attract affection or ensure fidelity. There's an open scholarly debate about how much these diverse traditions influenced each other, especially along trade routes like the Silk Road. Some argue for rich exchanges of ideas and ingredients, while others see them as largely independent developments shaped by local culture. You might chuckle imagining a medieval European apothecary trying to replicate a Middle Eastern love potion without knowing the secret language of spices and symbols. Interestingly, some ingredients considered exotic in Europe, like frankincense, myrrh, or sandalwood, had long been staples in Middle Eastern and Asian love concoctions, symbolizing purity, sensuality, or divine favor. These cross-cultural echoes show that the human desire to influence love transcends geography and time. Though methods and meanings differed, the quest was universal. You might smile at how some of these potions were more about creating ambience and mood than any magical effect, much like today's scented candles or romantic dinners, proving that love's rituals are timeless. And here's a light-hearted joke. Why did the spice merchant always carry love potions? Because he knew how to season a relationship. Exploring love potions beyond Europe reveals a tapestry of beliefs and practices, each weaving the physical and spiritual in unique patterns, yet all driven by the same heart's longing. So as you imagine fragrant bazaars, tranquil gardens, and sacred temples, remember that the search for love's magic is a journey shared across the world, a story as diverse as the spices in an ancient apothecary's shelf. You're now drifting gently into the present, where the echoes of medieval love potions still resonate in the modern world, woven into our contemporary culture in surprising and sometimes amusing ways. The potions might have changed form, from brews of roots and ashes to bottles of perfume or herbal supplements, but the desire to stir affection and passion remains as vibrant as ever. Picture the aisles of a modern pharmacy or health store, where shelves are lined with products claiming to boost love, desire, or attraction. From scented candles and essential oils to herbal teas and aphrodisiac supplements, the market is flooded with modern descendants of medieval love potions. The ingredients might be safer and the packaging more polished, but the allure is unmistakably the same. Many of today's aphrodisiacs trace their roots directly back to medieval recipes. Ginseng, for example, is a staple in both traditional and modern love potions, prized for its supposed energy-boosting effects. Likewise, Domiana and Mocha root have long histories as herbal enhancers of desire. You might smile at how some modern products lean heavily on marketing, borrowing medieval mystique to suggest ancient wisdom behind their formulas, whether or not science backs their claims. The scientific community remains skeptical of many modern love potions, often dismissing them as placebo or marketing gimmicks. Yet, as with their medieval ancestors, belief plays a powerful role. If someone expects a potion to work, that confidence can influence their mood, behavior, and even their relationships. The rituals surrounding modern love potions, while less formalized, often involve intention setting, romantic ambience, or personal confidence, echoing the medieval blend of chemistry and ceremony. Pop culture keeps the fascination alive. Movies, books, and TV shows feature love potions as plot devices, sometimes comedic, sometimes dark, reminding us of the timeless fantasy of capturing love in a bottle. Interestingly, some modern perfumers draw inspiration from medieval scents, recreating the aromas of rose, amber, musk, and spices once used in love potions. These scents evoke emotions and memories, harnessing the power of smell as a subtle form of attraction. You might chuckle imagining a perfume labeled Mandrake Mist selling out at a modern boutique, even though no one actually includes mandrake root. The ongoing scientific exploration into the chemistry of attraction, studying pheromones, hormones, and neurotransmitters, echoes the medieval quest to understand and influence love, though with much more precision and rigor. There's an ongoing debate about whether any substance can truly influence attraction beyond psychological and social factors. Yet, the hope persists, fueling a market worth billions worldwide. You might smile at how the medieval idea of love potions has transformed, yet still captures the imagination, proof that the human heart loves a little mystery and magic. And here's a light-hearted joke. Why don't modern love potions come with side effects? Because the only thing they cause is butterflies. The journey from medieval brews to modern aphrodisiacs shows that love potions are less about the potion and more about the promise. A promise of connection, passion, and the timeless hope that love can be found, bottled, and shared. So as you imagine these modern echoes of ancient charms, remember that the story of love potions is ongoing, a living thread woven through centuries of human longing. You're gently settling into the quiet, reflective heart of this journey, where the enduring mystery of medieval love potions softly lingers like the last notes of a whispered song. Despite centuries of change, skepticism, and science, the idea that love, so wild, so unpredictable, might somehow be tamed or summoned by a simple potion still captures our imagination, our hopes, and yes, even our dreams. Picture a world both distant and familiar, where people across classes and continents brewed their secret recipes in hopes of capturing the elusive spark of affection. It wasn't just about chemicals or rituals. It was about human longing, about trying to grasp the intangible threads of the heart and twist them just enough to weave a new story of connection. Historians still debate the reality and effectiveness of these potions. Were they truly magical brews capable of stirring desire? Or were they placebo, theater, and symbolism wrapped into a tangible form? The answer, like love itself, is probably somewhere in between. What remains clear is the profound human need behind these potions: to influence fate, to nudge the heart, to hold a little power in a world often ruled by circumstance and social order. You might chuckle quietly at how, even now, we're drawn to stories and symbols promising that love can be shaped or summoned. From the medieval mandrake root to modern-day romance novels, the fantasy persists. Throughout history, love potions have served as mirrors reflecting cultural values, fears, and desires. They reveal our fascination with control over one of life's greatest mysteries, and our willingness to believe in magic when hope seems scarce. Even as medicine and science advance, the enchantment of love potions reminds us that love isn't just biology. It's story, ritual, and magic, wrapped in human hearts. So as your eyes grow heavy and your breath slows, let the mystery of these forbidden fruits settle gently around you. Remember that the search for love is a timeless journey, filled with wonder, hope, and the occasional touch of the inexplicable. You are safe here, wrapped in the soft embrace of stories whispered through centuries. Let your mind drift on this quiet river of dreams, knowing that love's magic lives in you as much as in any potion. And with that, it's okay to let go, to drift deeper into rest. The night holds you gently, as love holds the world, sometimes elusive, sometimes fierce, always a mystery worth cherishing.